We had to miss a week last week, Chris. Alfred got the better of us. The track was fine, you know, a little bit of flooding around the place with our trainers, but we're back in business. That said, there's a couple of sort of not so good news to pass on.
Yeah, we start with disappointing news. Duke of Scotland, the track record holder at 149, he's succumbed, so he's no longer with us. Really unfortunate. Did a bit of track work and then just basically suffered a heart attack not long after. So really disappointing for owner Craig Whiteoak, Connection, Chantel Turpin, Pete McMullen. So they had a lot to look forward to. Obviously the Inter-Dominion was going to be a major priority, but not to be. And joining Duke of Scotland, defensive guy. Really good trotter for the Crones. He's also succumbed. He had a colic attack, and this is not the first time that he's been struck down by colic, but they just couldn't save him this time. And again, like Duke of Scotland, they would have been looking at the Inter-Dominion Series in July as well. So not the best news to be starting with this week, that we've lost some of our pin-up pacers and trotters, Duke of Scotland and defensive guy.
Well, speaking of pin-up pacers, none more so than Leap to Fame. Follow up there with him?
Yeah, well, he's back in town. He's going to start on Saturday night. It's just a small field, the free-for-all. Now, the update with him, so at this stage, he's locked in for that Cambridge race. That comes up on April 4. He's due to fly to New Zealand on the 30th of March. So there was a little bit of talk going around that they'd give him a start the week prior, just to sort of familiarise himself on the Cambridge track. So obviously that's not going to happen. Maybe they get another start in here before they go away, but he's definitely going to start on Saturday night, but he's due to fly out on March 30.
A newcomer, well, potentially newcomer, Penny Tiger, Mouse Brennan, update there?
Yeah, I can tell you that he's now left Perth, so he is Brisbane bound. It's obviously going to take a little while. I'm sure he's coming by road. So he left Perth yesterday, so hopefully by the end of this week, he'll be able to settle into his new surroundings. So he's going to be a fascinating horse. He's such a speed horse, so with a lot of mild racing here at Albion Park and with front row draws, he can be a real threat. So I'm very interested to see how he adapts to Queensland Penny Tiger.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to the first time he and Turn It Up get side by side. Not as promised, he continues his winning ways.
Yeah, but I'm hearing that he's now secured a slot for that race in New Zealand, the Tab Trot race over there. So we're going to have great representation, not only Leap to Fame, but not as promised. So I'll be interested to see if he starts this Saturday night. If he does come out, I'm sure this is the reason why he's going to come out. Whether they get across and start earlier or whether he's on the same plane as Leap to Fame, I'll find out during the week. But things are looking good. It'll be great to see him over there. Only a field of 8 over a long distance, so it looks really suitable for him. So that'll be a good challenge.
The Janitor, he was successful at his last start down at Menangle.
Yeah, and this probably doesn't come as any surprise, but there was a massive offer put forward for this horse, the Janitor. At this stage, I think it's been thanks but no thanks, but not surprising given that he's only a 4-year-old, still lightly raced, and just on what he's done down there in Sydney, Cam Hard gave him a glowing report in both of those drives that he won on. So the Janitor, the Rising Sun's the obvious target for him. Do they push on to the Inter-Dominion? If he wins the Rising Sun, time will tell, but a big offer, 6 figures, knocked back at this stage.
Yeah, well, that's could prove to be a masterstroke. And speaking of Masterly, he's a nice horse.
Yeah, he's a nice trotter, and he's bound for Brisbane as well. So he's going to start this Friday night at Addington. He went around last week chasing home the likes of Bet and Win, Muscle Mountain. So he can mix it with some really talented trotters in New Zealand. So he's going to make his way across to Queensland. He's going to join a leading stable here. I'm sure there will be a nomination for the Inter-Dominion Series coming up in July. May not, really see him when all of those big names arrive, but he's going to do a job here in Queensland. So he'll have one more start this Friday night at Addington and then make his way to Queensland.
Here's one that I don't know much about. Crystal, what can you tell me about this one?
Well, this is a filly. This is a very lightly raced filly. In fact, she only made her debut last Friday night at Addington in Christchurch. She ran third. She's a filly by Down by the Seaside. She's raced by Jack and Tara Butler. So this filly, potentially, if she continues to improve, and it was a really, really eye-catching display first up last week, she might be a Queensland Oaks possibility. So we'll just wait and see. The next couple of weeks are going to be really important for her, but she's a nice filly. They purchased her as a young horse, so hopefully she continues on that upward trajectory and she might become an Oaks type.
Speaking of fillies, there's a couple on the move. One in particular, trotting mare, Funny Face.
Funny Face goes to Sydney. So this Saturday night, we've got the Hour Over and Over Trotters Marathon. We see Super Service in town. basically a swap over. So Super Service comes up from the stables of Peter Rickson. Funny Face goes from the stables of John Livingston to Peter Rickson. So a bit of a swap over there. That's a good race on Saturday night, that Trotters Marathon. Whether he starts or not as promised, that's a good race. But Funny Face, more mobile opportunities down there. As we know, she's become quite cantankerous about just going onto the track. So it'll be interesting to see how she goes down there and if she can get onto the track. But she is listed to start this weekend.
Well, you mentioned the Hour Over and Over. That's certainly going to be a great race. Inter-Dominion conditions, they were released as well today.
Yeah, really interesting looking at it. So the winner of the Rising Sun, this was the key one for me that stood out. They can take up an option of starting in the Inter-Dominion if successful, but they've got to be a 4-year-old. So if a 3-year-old wins, no can do there. So that's going to be really interesting. If they do start, they've got to go around on that final round of heats night. So there's a new race there, the Kevin Thomas. So that's great to see that one of the legends of Queensland harness racing has been honoured with a race in his name. But yeah, I thought overall the conditions were good. And I think, you know, just canvassing a lot of the local and interstaters about the conditions, I think the 2 heats in the final probably suits just the way we're going with harness racing now. We're more finely tuned. It's all about the time. So Saturday with the grand final on the Saturday and the grand final over the marathon trip, 3,157 metres. I think it's going to be quite interesting, but I think it's going to be a winning move.
Yeah, that look forward to. For nominations, 30th of April, they will be due in 30th of April, first round rankings 1 week later. We spoke of some horses moving around. The human variety, has been a bit of movement around the stables.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Clark, former vice chairman here at the club, so he leaves that role now to take on the new role of harness racing manager now. So he basically takes the role of David Brick. So we wish Andrew all the very best of luck there. And Jim Waddell now takes over the role of CEO here at Albion Park, replacing Ken Rutherford, the COO. So we're going to have some new faces, but it's an exciting time for both guys, given that we've got the Inter-Dominion, a revamped Summer Carnival, plus the Ultimate Drivers again next year. Hopefully they can do wonderful things for the code.
Yeah, and on top of that, come April, the venue will be a standalone harness racing venue with the greyhounds leaving, so plenty to look forward to later in the year here at the Creek.
Might have some more news on that too in time to come.
Keep digging.
Yep.
You are the news hound that we rely on.